Imagine a software engineer named Jordan. Jordan sits down at the desk, opens a laptop, and sets a clear intention to do deep, focused work for 90 minutes. Within 7 minutes, Jordan's hand reaches for the phone and starts scrolling. Fast forward to 11 p.m. The house is completely quiet. The screens are off. Jordan lies in bed, completely exhausted from the long day, but totally unable to shut down. The brain is racing. Out of nowhere, the mind starts serving up a highly specific, random list of problems. A piece of code from Friday that never got patched, an unprepared meeting with a manager, a text message from a friend ignored on Saturday. Each one is a mental tab, quietly sipping CPU in the background. Bedtime provides the quiet necessary for the brain to surface every unfinished item at once. The anxiety you feel at 11 p.m. is the same cognitive load you carried all day, finally audible because the world went still. When we find ourselves staring at the ceiling or completely incapable of focusing at 3 p.m., we usually blame the same predictable things. We blame phone addiction. We blame a poor work ethic. We tell ourselves we lack willpower. Behavioral science points to a specific, unique biological quirk. Unclosed goals park themselves in your working memory and leak attention. Look at this scale. It illustrates a strange paradox about human memory. On one side, you have a massive pile of completed, difficult tasks from your week. On the other side, a single, tiny, unwritten email. In your brain, that tiny open loop heavily outweighs the mountain of finished work. The completed tasks disappear without a trace, while that one unwritten email shows up at 1 a.m. in full HD. Until we look at exactly how the brain forcefully categorizes these open loops, we will remain trapped in a cycle of mental fatigue. To understand the mechanics of that fatigue, we have to go back to Berlin in 1927. A young psychology student named Bluma Zeigarnik is sitting in a crowded cafe. As she watches the room, she notices something peculiar about the waitstaff moving between the tables. The waiters possessed an almost superhuman ability to recall, with perfect accuracy, every drink and every plate for every table that had not yet paid. But the absolute second a customer handed over the money, the order vanished from their heads. The bill was closed and the memory was completely wiped. Zeigarnik takes this observation straight into the lab. She gives volunteers a long list of small tasks, letting them finish some while interrupting others. This chart shows her findings. People remembered the interrupted, unfinished tasks roughly twice as well as the ones they actually completed. She concluded that the human mind holds an unfinished task in a state of cognitive tension. Today, psychology calls this the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain treats an unfinished task exactly like your computer treats an open application. It refuses to close the file. It leaves the process running constantly in the background, quietly draining your battery. For decades, that was the whole story. Then, in 2011, researchers E.J. Masicampo and Baumeister brought this concept into a modern, highly controlled lab at Florida State University. They ask participants to think about an important, highly specific, unfulfilled goal in their life. Then, they instructed them to hold that thought while completing completely unrelated tasks that required extreme focus, like solving anagrams or reading complex texts. The participants holding the unfulfilled goals experienced a barrage of intrusive thoughts. Their attention drifted wildly. Words related to their unfinished tasks started jumping out at them from unrelated puzzles. Consequently, their performance on tasks requiring self-control plummeted. A massive 2025 meta-analysis updated this picture even further. As this flow diagram shows, the primary issue isn't that you have an enhanced memory for the task. The issue is this persistent, cyclical ping. Your brain generates a relentless, uncontrollable urge to pull you away from your current focus and resume the interrupted loop. The tasks throwing the biggest shadow are not random. The open loops that pull hardest on your background processing are the ones deeply tied to your sense of identity, like a novel you want to write or a tough conversation with a parent, especially when the path to completion is unclear. These unfinished goals cause measurable cognitive depletion. Every time your brain nudges you to ask, "What about that thing?" you pay a tax, losing the exact sliver of working memory and self-control you need to function. We obviously cannot finish every single task on our plates. There are simply too many demands and too few hours in the day. Luckily, Masicampo and Baumeister tested a brilliantly simple intervention. After making participants think of an unfinished goal, they asked them to write down a highly specific plan for how, when, and where they would accomplish it. Look at this line graph tracking cognitive interference. The moment participants created a specific plan, the interference dropped to 0. The intrusive thoughts vanished. The actual task remained undone, but the mind let go anyway. Your brain does not demand that you finish the task right now. It only demands the task is housed somewhere safe and structured. Once it knows there is a time assigned, it hands the responsibility off to the system. Productivity systems like calendar blocking or to-do lists act as neurological closure rituals. They satisfy the Zeigarnik effect by converting open tabs into closed loops. You can put this into practice tonight with the bedtime dump. Keep a notebook by your bed. When your brain throws an unfinished task at you at midnight, pick up a pen and write down exactly when and where you will handle it tomorrow. Next is the deep work block. Before you start a session that requires your full focus, spend 3 minutes writing down every nagging open task with a one-line plan for each. Give the ghosts a home and they will stop interrupting you. Finally, use the meeting gap. Those brief 30-second windows between calls are when open tabs love to attack. Write down one sentence detailing the exact next step required for a pending issue before you join your next call. Western productivity culture insists that the only way to cure an overloaded mind is to work harder and finish tasks faster. The data proves otherwise. Reclaiming your focus involves a simple move. Give your tasks a place to live, and the mind sets down the weight it was carrying.